psychic readings, programs, spiritual guidance, and other life skill techniques. As our lives have become more complicated, we often reach for answers. Who are we? Where are we headed? Are we pointed in the right direction? In addition, we often are concerned for our loved ones. I have helped thousands of people navigate their life circumstances through different modalities of spiritual and intuitive guidance. Call me at 561-755-2166 and allow me to further explain how I may assist you in clearing the path of yesterday so today and tomorrow will be a success. Call me at 561-755-2166 or visit my site, HalleyElise.com. That's HalleyElise.com.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Are you ready? It is your time to take a few moments from your busy day to unwind, be inspired, and listen to the psychic insights of your host, empowerment psychic, Halley Elise, a top 100 psychic, speaker, and author. Off air, be sure to connect with Halley at HalleyElise.com. And now, the Halley Elise Show.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you could join me this evening. It's funny, I had a client in the other day, and when I was chatting with her, there was this feeling that she was not grounded, probably 90% of the time. When I say not grounded, it's that person who kind of misses things that is in front of them because their mind is elsewhere. They're not really in the present. They're already 10 steps into the future. And we all are that way at some time. But it was funny because I found myself being that person today. My mother phoned and she said something about the radio show. And I said, that's on Fridays. And she says, that today is Friday. I said, no, today's Thursday. Are you sure? And I had to laugh because I was at the office earlier, which means I had to know what day it was to see clients. But for some reason, when I got home, I got into this altered space of consciousness. I was just being quiet and being still. I didn't have on the stereo. I didn't have on the television. I didn't have on any noise. It was just quietness. And I was alone with my own thoughts, which is fine, except they were everywhere. They were here, there, past, present, future, all at once. And the interesting thing is, I'm usually pretty good at noticing that. Meaning it's kind of intentional unconsciousness versus unintentional unconsciousness. I may have to quote that or coin that term, unintentional unconsciousness. You like that? My point being, it's kind of amusing when you recognize it in yourself, something that you've been seeing in other people. And I don't know, within 5 minutes, I had everything together and it was all good. And I said, oh, really kind of interesting that I can actually get myself together in a short period of time versus needing hours when I am aware. And I think that applies to all of us. That old expression, haste makes waste. And I've talked about this on and off over the years in respect to energetically, because when we're rushing about, our energy is somewhat frazzled. And when I say energy, it is not just that physical energy, but it is that energy that is pervasive in our world, our life force, that instead of a nice even flow, it's chaotic. And this happens in a myriad of ways. It happens when things don't go well in a romance. It happens when things change with a residence. It happens when we're trying to accomplish something and we're unable to get it done. What we have to remember is we can always go back and forth. And the idea of being in that altered state of consciousness, it's likened to when you do hypnosis or meditation. You are sitting in alpha, meaning beta is when we talk and we're interacting with people. Alpha is when you kind of go into that quiet space. You experience it a lot of times when you're laying in bed and you're not quite asleep and you hear the sounds around you and you could interact if you wanted to, but you're not quite there. That's the onset of alpha. When we intentionally go into alpha, we can create. And so when we are on overwhelm or our mind is elsewhere, going into alpha state is phenomenal to help us create what we want. And if you're wondering, okay, so how does that tie into being unintentionally unconscious? When you recognize that you're in that place, you can use it to your benefit. You can actually do a progression. And some folks are not familiar with that. A lot of people have heard of past life progression. You can do a progression of life, meaning you go into that altered state of consciousness, that intentional unconsciousness, and just allow that flow to begin. There are a few things that you'd like to do to make it happen. I'm not going to go into all those details while we're on the air at the moment, but the idea is that whether you recognize it on a daily basis or not, you have the capacity to shift from one realm to another at your command. And when it happens spontaneously, when it happens where you're going, wait, where am I? What am I doing? Very similar to when you are, let's say, driving down the street and you find yourself in a space and wonder, where am I? And you realize, oh, wait, I missed where I was supposed to turn. That's when you're in that altered state. Doesn't mean you can't function. Not usually the best thing to do, though, while you're driving. It just simply means that once you are aware of it, you can either stop it or you can use it for your benefit. What I'd like to suggest is that when you notice you're kind of off, you could even say daydreaming, even though that's not exactly what it is, but it's a similar type of feel. It is that shifting of consciousness. When you're in that space and you recognize that you're in that space, intentional or not, you can ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish? You can ask yourself, what is it that I need to solve? And when you do that, check in with yourself and recognize that all the answers that you actually need are within. Now, that said, I work psychically. I help people recognize things. Oftentimes, though, people come into the office and they go, oh my gosh, you just gave me confirmation of what I've been feeling. That being said, every person on the face of the planet has the ability to tap in, to connect with the divine, to allow themselves to reach that altered state so that they can receive information. Most people, though, are too busy. They're too busy in that physical realm. They're too busy just moving through their life. And yet there are those that we see and we think, oh my gosh, what's up with that person? They're so ditzy, they're spacey, they're out of it. And it's not necessarily that they're out of it or that they are unthinking. It's just in that moment, they're in that altered space. Kind of fascinating if you think about it, because it's something that we do naturally. We don't necessarily have to intentionally go into an altered state. We do it on our own. The thing is to observe it when it happens spontaneously and then to use it for the best outcome. Now, I had an interesting call yesterday. A gal phoned and she said, oh my gosh, I have to come in to see you. When can I make an appointment? Very nice lady. Somebody, I think she said she was in Iowa. I don't think I have any clients in Iowa. I think this was the first one. But she said she was going to be in town. She wanted to come in. She had been referred by someone else who said they had looked over their notes from when they had been in, and everything that was forecasted came to pass. Now, what's fascinating about this is when I'm sitting in session with someone, I'm in that altered space. I navigate back and forth between that right hemisphere, which is that abstract, and the left, which is the linear. So the linear allows me to actually communicate, and sometimes not so well. Sometimes I miss words or there's something going on where it doesn't seem to come out quite right because things show up in images or sensations. However, I do navigate back and forth, and ultimately I'm able to convey a message. Ask me what I've said later, and the majority of the time I cannot tell you because it just flowed. And again, when you're in that altered state, you have that capacity. Anywho, this gal said her friend was like, oh my gosh, because this, and this happened. And what I think is so fascinating is people will come in for a reading. And I don't read like the average person. The average person who, it's a stereotype saying it that way, but I'm going to use it for an example. The average person who does a psychic reading, whether they use a tool or not, has a certain way that they do it. Each one is a little different, but a lot of them will be very specific about this is going to happen this way. I'm not God. I don't want to be God. And that said, I usually get a view of either way, meaning if you are facing an obstacle, I usually get a view of what does it look like if you do nothing? What does it look like if you make that change? And what to expect afterwards on either side. There are times, though, that things come in that they're just so emphatic that I have to be insistent about it. And it could be something about a trip, or it could be something about health. And I am going to preface, and I always do, with the fact that no matter what comes through from me, you're an individual who has to be responsible for your own wellness. And that means you should always defer to your judgment and defer to your doctor's judgment. By the same token, if you have somebody like me who's got a record of accuracy, and that person says, go to the doctor, get some x-rays done of, fill in the blank, whatever that is, or go in and have a scan of or a test of. Listen, what's the absolute worst thing that can happen? They're wrong? What if they're right? And more often than not, I get people asking me if I'm a medical intuitive. I'm not. I don't advertise myself that way. I don't see myself that way because, again, my foundation is not medicine. If I had studied medicine, that would be different. This, to me, is sensory. So when you connect with me, it's more a matter of, again, back to that altered state of consciousness and allowing information to flow through. I thought it was cute today, though. I had a gal in the office and we were talking, and I always try to give some information about the physical body, and typically it comes in when it wants. Sometimes it's at the beginning of the session, sometimes it's at the end, but you just kind of let it roll. And something came up about this woman and her hemoglobin and vitamins in her system and what have you. And she started laughing. So what are you laughing about? She says, I just had blood work done, and what you're saying is what showed up in the blood work. Kind of cool. Anyways, we are going to take a quick break. If you'd like to call in for psychic reading, tonight's the night. I do not have a guest, so it's all about you and what is going on in your world. It's 888-565-1470. Once again, 888-565-1470. And we'll be right back. This is your empowerment psychic, Halley, Elise, one of the top 100 psychics in America. For over 30 years, I have offered psychic readings, programs, spiritual guidance, and other life skill techniques. As our lives have become more complicated, we often reach for answers. Who are we? Where are we headed? Are we pointed in the right direction? In addition, we often are concerned for our loved ones. I have helped thousands of people navigate their life circumstances through different modalities of spiritual and intuitive guidance. Call me at 561-755-2166 and allow me to further explain how I may assist you in clearing the path of yesterday so today and tomorrow will be a success. Call me at 561-755-2166 or visit my site, HalleyElise.com. That's HalleyElise.com.
You have been listening to empowerment psychic Halley Elise, a top 100 psychic. She is your connection to all things spiritual, psychic, and empowering. Your guide to peace and wisdom. For a private appointment off air, call 561-755-2166. Now, back to the Halley Elise Show with empowerment psychic Halley Elise.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just tuning in before a break, and actually throughout the first half, I was talking a bit about being in that unconscious state, meaning an altered state of consciousness. Whether you see it as a daydream or you intentionally do hypnosis or you are working with meditation or you're just allowing yourself to go with that natural rhythm, you have the capacity, and I've said this before, to connect intuitively. Somebody like myself helps you in the sense of, yes, giving you a forecast of the future, but me specifically, my intention is to empower you so that if you come into the office, really and truly, it's not just about what's coming next future, but it's also about how can you be the best that you can be in this moment? What is it that it's going to take to help you be content, be more powerful in your life? And a lot of people go, oh, that's a coach. really, I do not see myself as a coach. I am a conduit to a degree. I allow information to just move through. And with every person, it's a little different. One individual says, oh my gosh, you just gave me what I needed to know about the physical stuff. And I will again reiterate that I am not a medical intuitive. Everything for me is sensory, and I always expect you to defer to your judgment and your physicians. But by the same token, and I said this earlier, if there's something that comes in so strong, so vividly, it's wise to listen because you can avoid a problem. And I have had people come back to me after the fact and say, doctor said if I hadn't gotten in when I did, I wouldn't be here. It's kind of important, yes? All right, we have Marina on the line. Hi, Marina. How are you?
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Did you have a specific question this evening?
Well, I just kind of had a general question, kind of. I'm in the middle of things, and I was just wondering in which way my life is going, what direction in general.
Okay, so in general, what's really funny is I feel like you've reinvented yourself multiple times throughout your lifetime so far, and this is not the end, meaning that there's going to be, I get 2 more cycles where you're headed in one direction and then you make some adjustment and then you move into a different direction. And a lot of times what happens for you is you get very excited about something and you're ensconced in it, but then for whatever reason it doesn't feel right, or it's just not giving you what you thought you were going to receive from it. And then I get there's this pivot. But in this moment, I'm going to say we are in February, March, April, May. Okay, May, June is going to be significant for you. So if you can have a little patience and just continue doing what you're doing, you'll find that tail end of spring, going to summer, you have more joy and more, I'm going to say, confidence about your next move.
Wow, that's great. Do you see anything as far as personal relationships?
Okay. That to me is a little bit wonky. I'd love to say that, tomorrow, there's all this good stuff happening. It's not that I get bad, I just get wonky. And wonky for me is that I don't really get it being as consistent, as stable, as all-encompassing love in this moment as you would like. But I will say that this year is going to be very special. And one of the things, though, that's important is recognizing your old stuff and really letting it go, because I feel like you're still holding on to things. And whenever we do that, we kind of keep that stronger love, that more significant desire at bay without even realizing. All right, so what I'm going to try to clarify this so this makes sense. Take a few moments, maybe even after you get off the phone with me this evening, and sit down and take a nice deep breath. And when you do that, ask yourself, what is it I need to know about past romance? And just let the information kind of come to the surface. You will find that there's a couple of things that you really haven't let go of yet. You happen to be very sensitive and you take things to heart, which is really great when it comes to being compassionate for others and helpful to others. But it's not the greatest for you, because you're not always moderating as well as you could. If you check in with yourself in this way that I'm suggesting, you will gain more clarity. And then I feel like there's 2 things specifically that are going to pop up. And when they do, take a breath, acknowledge what it is, write it down, and plan to take a little bit more time tomorrow or a couple of days later to sit with the first thing. And again, go in and ask yourself, what do I need to do to neutralize this? Because I feel like you truly have that information within you. This is not like, I have to grasp this. This is difficult. This is not, I'm not psychic. I can't. This is more a matter of it's integral, and it's more, I'm going to say more on a conscious end than a subconscious end, that the old stuff is still lingering. And it has to do with how you're opening up to really have what you want for longevity. You understand?
I think I understand. I've been divorced for almost 15 years, so...
Yeah, but see, being divorced doesn't mean that on an energy level within our system that we've released it. It doesn't mean that on an intellectual level that there isn't some stuff sitting there. And I'm going to give an arbitrary example, not that this is specific to you, but it'll make some sense. let's say you're divorced 15, 20 years, and for some reason, though, you just haven't had that really amazing, warm, ingratiating love. And you're going, what's up with that? I should have this. By this point, it should be permanent. It should be full out. And then you start to think about it and you think, well, anytime I date, I feel like maybe they're not going to behave properly. Or there's that little flag that goes up that reminds me of my ex. Or and I know this is sounding general. I want to try to give a specific here. To me, it feels like one of the issues has to do with respect and you feeling respected in a relationship. And I feel like that charge needs to be neutralized so you can really have what you want.
That's very interesting because I thought respect was the basis of everything.
Well, it's funny because most people that I run into, women specifically, tend to feel that it's more a matter of how are they being treated? Is that person being chivalrous? Is that person being generous? And it's not surfacing as much as you might think when it comes to most people, at least that I run into. So I'm going to pardon?
I said that's really interesting.
Yeah, just take a little bit and sit with that because I truly feel like you're going to find information coming up for you and you're going to be able to go, oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't need to do this anymore. And anything that pops up that's feeling uncomfortable, just literally observe it and say, okay, yeah, I can see where this has happened in my world. And again, just kind of affirm that you don't need it anymore. Because what I'm getting, respect is that main thing. And the secondary thing that's coming up here, it's interesting. It almost feels, and I'm going to say similar to, not identical, but similar to abandonment. As in when somebody says, I'm there for you and I care for you, and then they're not. It's not necessarily abandonment like, oh, a parent left you on your own type of thing at a shopping mall for 3 hours and didn't come back. But there are two things that pop up for me as I continue to talk here that I feel like if you take a deeper look at that, you can neutralize that and you will find that what you want as far as the longevity is just around the corner. All right, my friend?
Wow, you're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. If you're listening in this evening and you'd like to have a psychic session, feel free to call in 888-565-1470. And if you are struggling with something, you can do a similar type of process as I just explained to this other gal. Okay, we have Jen on the line. Hi, Jen.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, hon. How about you?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's a fib.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well, I can't lie to you.
Well, let me tell you something, though. March, April, May, June, July, August. By August, a lot of what the muck, and that's what I'm going to call it because that's what it feels like when you're standing in the mud, but a lot of the muck that you've been experiencing, and it started before this new year, you will be done with it. You're going to be headed into a new cycle, and you're going to find that at least for, I'm going to say the first 2 months after, you will be like, I feel as if a weight is lifted off. I feel so much better. I feel like I have energy. I feel as if I have clarity. It is shifting. You just, and I got major confirmation here where I have chills running up and down my body. Hang in there.
Me too.
Well, good. Bottom line, this old stuff is almost finished. And it's funny because what you have in common with this other gal, different issues completely, but what you have in common is that old bothering you in this moment, and it's unnecessary. But you're not out of an energetic cycle yet. Hang in there, like I said, about 4 or 5 months. Just kind of remind yourself that this is coming to an end, and what comes next is joyous. What comes next is uplifting. And you've got several levels at the same time will be shifting. You've got your residence, you've got relationship, and you've got finance. So you've got a lot going on.
Wow. I know it feels like it. Like you say, I felt like I was stuck. And, in the past, I can't, it's like, it just doesn't go away.
Well, part of this is energy. And see, it's funny because I talk about this and people think I'm talking about planets. I'm not talking about horoscope, but more your personal energy. There are things changing within you, and you're just at the precipice here. please don't give up. Hang in there. Like I said, 4 or 5 months. When stuff comes up for you, just say, I used to deal with that. I don't want to look at that anymore, because it will open the door for what comes next. And then you're going to have 2 amazing months after that 5 months. So figure roughly 7 months. And what comes next is happy dance. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
All righty. Have a great night. Bye-bye. Thanks, folks, for tuning in to the Halley Elise Show. If you made comments on Facebook, I will be sure to take a look at them later. Sometimes they pop up on the screen, sometimes not. But it's lovely to interact with you. See you next week on the Halley Elise Show. Good night.
Remember to tune in every week at this time on WWNN for more peace, information, and psychic phenomena with empowerment psychic Halley Elise, Top 100 Psychic.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly